You could be anywhere doing anything, but you're hanging out with us. We appreciate that. So wherever you're listening and however you're listening, we appreciate you guys for listening. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Gameplan Podcast. Alex Goodwin is my name. You can follow me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's T as in tacos, S as in sangria, M as in margaritas. Lamar Gafford, my guy.
What's going on, man?
Man, nothing too much, nothing too much. Where can the folks find you on Twitter?
All right, you can find me on sunlawpreps.com, and you can also find me on Twitter at Lamar Gafford, all in one word. Once again, that is at Lamar Gafford, all in one word.
All right. All right. Also, thank you to our live streamers here on the Game Plan Podcast official YouTube channel. Don't forget, put your questions in your comments in the live chat. You never know. We might just read them off here on the show. And I said T as in tacos. I probably should have said T as in take home, because the Boston Celtics took home the 2024 NBA championship, defeating Lamar, your Dallas Mavericks, 106-88 to bring home their 18th banner. So, Lamar, just as a Mavs fan, recapping this season for the Mavs, how do you feel? Let's just start there.
I think you have to be very positive about it because there are some good building blocks to what this team was able to do. I think if you would have told many of us at the start of this season, especially after missing the playoffs last year, or even in midway of the season, hey, the Dallas Mavericks are going to make a run all the way to the NBA Finals. I believe we would have taken that, and then for that case here, but everything seemed to come together. Obviously, when we tanked those games last year and got lively, and of course, in the trade deadline, getting Gafford and also PJ Washington, I think everything just came together. Defensively, they started building up an identity. Offensively, you've seen the team becoming more fluid around everything there. And then, of course, you get to the playoffs, you kind of had a feeling, man, look, if we beat the Clippers, I could at least see the Western Conference Finals for this team. And next thing you know, I mean, hey, you're now in the finals. You played against basically the best team in the league this season, a team that a lot of people said that they were probably going to be very solid in the squad. I think you're going to take this thing as a positive here. Now, yes, it does hurt. Obviously, nobody likes to get to this point and then just lose, or being one of the final teams to lose in the series and everything. But I do think that there are some things that they can look forward to, take it as a solace, and be like, okay, well, we got something to now aim for next year, because we'll have a full year with these guys, and hopefully we can carry the same momentum in that case.
The thing I was thinking about in terms of, I'll say, tonight's game was, like, going into it, I was like, all right, we're going to see if Boston is going to totally mess all of this up. Right? Because I think all through the end of game 4 and all through the weekend, the big question, like, I felt like there was a feeling of confidence with you Mavs fans. Is that right, Lamar?
Yeah, a lot of us were thinking, man, after that game 4, a lot of us were saying Mavs and 7. Shoot, I was even thinking that.
And I think a lot of that was just because we've just seen the Boston Celtics come apart at inopportune times, time and time and time again during the Brown and Tatum era, right? But tonight, it felt different from the opening tip, right? It felt like, okay, they finally had the moment where they're like, this is what championship teams do. We have you on the ropes. Let's knock you out. Let's put you out of your misery. And that's what they did tonight. Offensively, they were able to knock down their threes. Defensively, they were really ferocious defensively. And as well as Luka Doncic played, I think it's fair to say Luka had what, 28?
Yeah, yeah, he had 28 on 12 of 25 shots.
Okay. Luka shot around 50% from the floor, but it didn't feel like a Luka Doncic game. Like the fact that he had 28 points,
Mm,
when I looked at the stat sheet at the end of the ball game, I was like, huh, 28? It didn't feel like a Luka Doncic 28. You know what I'm saying? Like most times if Luka gets, 30, 35 points, it feels pretty smooth, pretty easy. Like Luka's got 30. Like it's obvious, right? Tonight it didn't feel that way. And they also didn't have much of a shot when Kyrie Irving again was booty butt cheeks. And I don't know what it is about Boston, but he cannot figure this thing out. And there was just going to be no way they were going to be able to win this series without both of them playing at full capacity, because I think so much of their offense is tilted towards the two of them, right? And there's no
mm,
one else outside of Luka and Kyrie Irving that can create their own shot. And so if your offense and your team is that dependent on those two dudes getting 30 points, right? If one of those dudes, if that money ain't in the account, you're not gonna be able to pay the rent. You know what I mean? Like it would have been nice to have, it's nice to have 17 or 18 from PJ Washington. He like a refund check. It's nice to have 17 points from Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively. You know what I'm saying? That's like finding $20 in, when you washing your clothes. You find it in the dresser. Oh, snap, there's $20 right here. Bang, right? That ain't money you counted on. In this series, in order for it to be close, we were all counting on Kyrie Irving to be good, and he wasn't. You know?
right, and that's just one of the things there. I mean, I don't know. It's like what we said after game two. I don't know what's been going on, obviously, with him in Boston. I don't know if he has to, get right like the color purple and everything that he touches in Boston, now has to become better and everything. But it's like it's clearly something going on there. And I mean, even them Boston fans, they still don't like him. And I'm like, I was kind of like, even during the game, I'm like, yo, man, y'all are almost getting ready to win a championship. He basically had said some good things there, while also saying that some of the players, that any player that may want to come back there, has to do their homework. But he kind of said some good things about him, but obviously knowing of what to expect there and everything. And you're still booing the man. And I'm just kind of like, hey man, look, y'all won. Like, y'all don't necessarily need to really do that. But it's the fans. I'm guessing it's either the fans, the culture there. They kind of got him in a headlock right there, and it's just something that just ever since he stepped on that leprechaun, that stepped on that logo, it hasn't worked right for him there. It hasn't.
And I don't even know like what quite it is, because like you could say it's that, right? But we've never seen Kyrie Irving out of sorts like that, right? And
Hmm.
how much of that do you attribute to Boston just playing really great defense on him? Because that's what it was going to take in order for them to win that series, right? Was they're going to need Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum to all play great defense across the board on Kyrie and Luka. And Luka is going to get his points at some point. Like you could just pencil Luka down for like what, 27, 28, 30 plus, right?
Hmm.
But it's about, does he get 30 plus and does he get his other teammates involved, right? Or
Right.
is this a 30-point, 35-point night to assist game, right? And I think the other thing I think for Dallas is that what they're going to need to do, or not they, Luka is going to need to do, he got to get in better shape. And the homie Marcus has heard me say this before. I said, if Luka Doncic got in better shape and maybe lost 15 to 20 pounds, he might be the GOAT. Because do you see what he can accomplish living like Babe Ruth, summoning the spirit of James Harden and Charles Barkley during the summertime? Like Luka is living. He's the guy who's like he comes into training camp out of shape and he plays his way into shape. What would it look like if he showed up 10, 15 pounds lighter in better condition? You know?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be something to really look at as far as that too. I mean, it's kind of like when I saw KG's podcast, Certified, and he was talking about obviously with Anthony Edwards. You know, the Wolves, they weren't conditioned to go this far. They have always been first round casualty, and they hadn't even been, past the Western Conference Finals and all that stuff. I think this is going to be something that now. This is only Luka's second time that he's made it at least to the Final Four. First time making it to June. And so I think that's going to be something that's going to help him out after he kind of realizes it. I think this was just a learning process for him. Yes, there are some things that we can be hard about on him about. Also, all this yip yapping to the referees, he's got to stop that as well too. Because look, everybody's been trying to tell him, "Hey, man, there's times that you guys just go ahead and just play ball. Like, don't worry about the refs and just continue to do what you got to do out there." But yeah, I think being in shape is also one of those things that he has to do. I think the Olympics is going to help him out with that because obviously, in the next couple of weeks, I mean, next month, he'll be out there in the Olympics fighting for Slovenia. And the last time he was in the Olympics, he got Slovenia all the way to the I think the fourth place or something else like that, the
Yeah,
bronze medal
something like
game.
that.
So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so if he can continue to do that, that could be something good there. And of course, the last time when he played the Olympics and had that run, I mean, that was the first time he made it to the Western Conference Finals. So there are some good things that he can kind of point to with that. He'll probably be in game shape. He'll probably get a chance to work out a little bit more. I don't know what he'll be able to do after the Olympics, but at least that timeline is probably going to be a little bit shorter for him to have fun and all that stuff. And I just hope that this outcome motivates him a little bit more.
The way you talking about Luca staying in shape, you sound like you're talking about the kid who only keeps his grades up just so he can play football. So what the coaches decide to do is to keep him out of trouble and to keep his grades up. They're like, okay, you're not only going to play football, you can play basketball, and then after basketball, you're going to run track too. So all year, we got you focused in staying after school, so you're not getting in nobody's trouble, and you doing your schoolwork because you got to look because you got to hoop after this and you got to be on the track. Like that's what it sounds like with Luka
Hmm.
Doncic. We just keep him busy, keep him busy, keep him busy. Because the moment he ain't busy, what they say, an idle mind is a devil's playground.
Yep.
Ain't that the saying? That the old church mothers say? That sounds like the same thing. Like Luka's gonna be firing up those hookah coals real soon without international basketball. Right. Oh, we got the comment from the homie Marcus. Luka needs to put down those post game relaxation beers. Man, I don't know about you, man. I think Luca's into something. I think Luca drinks dark liquor, man. I think he drinks dark. See now he's a little bit pudgy, just a touch,
Mhm.
right? Hey, man, that's Hennessy. That's Crown. That's Douce. I know what that'll do to you, man. That I don't know. That ain't Miller Light.
Right. I don't know what they do over there in Slovenia with the beers and all that different type of stuff. One, I would like to see how it does, and then number two, uh, it's okay to do it in moderation. There, it's okay to do it in moderation.
Oh, we got another comment. Now he goes home and drinks a 6-pack and plays Valorant.
Hey, by the way, shout out to shout out to shout out to Finley. Shout out to Finley, man, because he knew what he was trying to do in that case here.
Yes.
Trying to take the beer away from him. Like, hey man, it's not a celebration quite yet. Like we got one more to go. We got one more to go. It kind of reminds me actually of one of the post games after one of the Mavs games. I think he had that 60-point game. And I remember Skin Wade asked him, "So what are you gonna do after the game?" He was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna have a celebratory beer." So I don't
Like,
know. Yeah.
he doing a little bit more than that. But to talk about the champion Boston Celtics, you know, I think a lot of credit has got to go to Joe Mazzulla, who, oddly enough, I will say, when they every time they say the head coach Joe Mazzulla, I still expect to see a different person who looks more like their last name is Mazzulla. But he got that job last year, and I don't know about you, Lamar, but he felt much more like a substitute teacher, right?
Mhm.
Like the plan wasn't for him to have this job. He was like the fourth or fifth assistant on the bench, to the point where, you know how you have that first row of assistant coaches? Joe
Mhm.
Mazzulla was on the second row, right? Like the plan was not for him to have that job. And it felt like last year, some of the strides that they made under Mr. Steal Your Girl, Ime Udoka, they had regressed and gone back to some of their same bad habits, right? But Joe
Mhm.
Mazzulla, I got to give him all the credit in the world. He put his imprint on this team, right? With the pace and space, the full on embrace of analytics, he put his full on stamp on this team. And I also think what also helped them a ton was Drew Holiday, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with that addition there, it kind of helps them out because not only what Drew can give you defensively, but he can give you a lot. He can give you a good bit offensively as well. Like he can win you some games on both sides. Um, Obviously, I know that was a kind of a hard thing for them to part ways with Marcus Smart. I mean, he was their glue guy. He was their heart. He was everything that they had there. And I'm pretty sure Marcus Smart probably right now in Memphis, or I don't know. I don't even know if he was in the garden tonight or something. Probably shedding a
He's
tear for
probably
his
in
boys
Dallas.
and being like, he probably is like, yeah, we did it, because he kind of felt like that. But I still think at the end of the day, um, when you have a guy like Drew, you have a veteran that's been there before, and I think the way of what you talked about too with the Celtics, they could play. I mean, this is a team that could also, you know, play defense, switch and play defense, and also play multiple positions out there. I mean, you could put Drew at the one or the two. I mean, and that's perfectly fine there. Derek White, he could play the one or the two, maybe even guard a three, even here or there. Jalen Brown can guard at either the two or the three. Tatum could guard the three or the four, and then of course Porzingis could guard a 4 or 5. And even with Horford at this point, evolving his game now to be more analytically sound, to that point. It's all kind of helped them out very well. And this was just a team that you can kind of see it at this point. And when they made the trade, they're going to be one of those teams. And of course, when they got to the end of the playoffs, it's like you can kind of see that this was a well built team. He really put up this team all together. He really had them at this point, um, playing pretty well, and of course believing in each other as well, where it wasn't just, okay, yeah, we know Tatum and Brown are the two lead guys. We know we live and die with them, but we don't have to always do that here. We have other good pieces that can get you 20. Drew can get you 20. Kristaps can get you 20. You know, sometimes Horford can get you 20. Sometimes White can get you 20. So they just have so many different weapons out there. And I think that's what made this team whole and everything.
Yeah, I think what Boston had in this series that Dallas didn't. Boston had a third guy. Well, really, honestly, if we're honest, a fourth guy that can get their own shots. Right? Dallas just had Luka and
Hmm.
Kyrie. Boston had Brown, Tatum, Drew Holiday, KP. Right? And I feel like Drew Holiday and KP, and even Derek White to a certain extent. When Derek White was in San Antonio with DeJounte Murray the past couple years, Derek White was San Antonio's second best player, I would argue, right? With Derek White as your second or third best, as your second best player, you're a playing team, you know. But you slot Derek White as what, the fifth best player, right? You slot KP, like we said the other night. If KP is your best player, you might be a playoff team, right? KP's your second best player. You're probably a playoff team, right? You're definitely a playoff team. KP's your third or fourth best player, which depended on the night. Sometimes it's Drew, sometimes it's KP, and they kind of flip flop at 3 and 4. You cook it with gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dallas needs a third guy that can do that, and that I feel like that's one of the bigger things that Dallas was missing. And I also think just at a certain point with Boston having gone to six trips to the conference finals in 8 years, and this is their second trip to the NBA finals. A season like this, where they finished with the NBA's best record by far, home court throughout the playoffs and the finals. If they did not win a title, this was going to be a failure of a season, right? Like all year, the way I had viewed Boston was, I won't care till May. We'll know in May what's really good, you know, because we've seen them have great seasons. We've seen them be the 1 or the 2 seed, and we've also seen them lose. We know how talented they are. That's not the question. The question is, are they gonna finish the drill? And we got to the playoffs, and you like, oh yeah, like this was one of the times it was like, oh yeah, they look right. Sure, Jimmy Butler was hurt. Donovan Mitchell banged up. Tyrese Halliburton banged up at the end of that conference final series. But you can only play who they put in front of you. And they did the job, right? They got it done. And it's one of the rare times where we can say the team with the best record in the NBA, the team like the most that had been hands down the most dominant team all year, won a title, because most times it doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. And I think you can kind of look at it like this too. I mean, it's kind of like the last Celtics team to win the title. Like when they came in, obviously with the big three, with Pierce and Allen and Garnett. I mean, you had a feeling that this team wasn't just made to win 66 games throughout the regular season. This team was made to get it done in June. And it looked scary at one point in time. I mean, going through 7-game series against the Hawks, 7-game series against the Cavs, and being tied 2-2 against the Pistons. But they found a way. They found a way just to get it all together. And I think it's kind of like similarities between that team. They played, they just looked at team first and everything else like that. And I think also you kind of look at Missoula as well as a coach. I mean, rising up through the ranks and everything, and it's crazy. I still remember him from when he was at his West Virginia days, under Bob Huggins, and when they had to face against that first Kentucky team that had Coach Cal with
Yeah. John
with
Wall.
Cousins and also John Wall and all of them. And they still found a way just to get it done there. So he's been in this situation before. And I think obviously last year that was a tough time here where they had to kind of learn and listen to him. But I think they wanted to have that continuity there so that, okay, we have a familiar face, we have a familiar voice, so that they can at least hold him accountable and everything else like that. And look at there.
And it worked, and that was a thing I think with Brown and Tatum, because for years, and there was a period of time I was like, they got to get rid of one of them. And my thought was, you probably need to 86 Jaylen Brown and see what else you can get around Tatum, right? But what they ultimately decided to do was they felt like, or apparently they knew something we didn't, was that Jaylen Brown is going to improve. And he took a jump this year, right? Most times in year 8 for him?
Yeah, you're 8.
Year 8, guys don't have he improved in some pretty significant ways this year, right? Like Jaylen Brown improved this year. And they decided, okay, instead of getting 86 in one of them, let's move Marcus Smart out and get KP. Let's get Brogdon out of here and Robert Williams out of here and get Drew Holiday, right? So their big thing was like these periphery pieces. And I think so often now in the NBA, we get, or some people get enamored with this idea of a super team, when most times, right, you have to build your team with good scouting, drafting your players, and developing them. And then sometimes making a shrewd move, like getting Derek White from San Antonio, right? Making those moves for KP and Drew Holiday, right? I don't know where the hell they got Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser from. I don't know. Are they on the Danny Ainge Memorial Endowed Scholarship, where they got to have a little bit of DEI on the team? Is that where they came from? And they got another third big tall white dude too.
Yeah. They probably got them from the local Irish pub in Boston somewhere. Hey, look like you could probably drink a couple of pints. Why don't you play for the Celtics?
And Marcus is saying he's like, the jump was last year, but he didn't fall off this year despite less shots. Shit, he's better at dribbling than he was last year. That's probably the biggest improvement I'm thinking of, to be honest with you. And I think having Drew help them a lot as well. And Marcus, that kind of goes to another one of your comments from he ain't worth all of that money. And he dribbles like a Republican, the finals MVP for Jaylen Brown. Yo, I'm not gonna lie. Saying he dribbles like a Republican. Oh my god. That is see, you gonna have us go into a laughing fit like we did at the end of last episode.
Yeah. I wonder how many times did he play back that interview he had with Taylor Brooks, because I'm betting that's probably one of the things there that kept him motivated. Like what did he probably do? Like I guess this push-ups or some sit-ups is just like, this was for you, Taylor. This was for you. I gotta at least get one of these before I turn 28. So you won't think I'm a liar.
Man, here's the thing though. I think without social media, we wouldn't even remember that. You know what I'm saying? Because of social media, we can remember that and point back to that. But I don't know if it's as bad as LeBron, D Wade, and Chris Bosh's when they threw that party after they all signed with the Heat, and they went to not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. They went with all of that, right? I don't think it's as bad as that one. You know what I mean? I think part of me thinks that's just like stupidity, right? Like from Jaylen Brown, right? So at this point of the program, we can go to questions and comments from the live audience. Throw your questions and your comments in the chat. This is the part of the program where we will read off your questions and answer them. So Marcus just been coming with the heat. Honestly, would Ime have won last year with last year's team had he never left?
You know what? I'd either say yes, or maybe the same situation happens. I probably would be willing to say he gets them there, but I don't know if he beats the Nuggets at that point, which that would have been a hell of a finals, by the way, too, to seeing the Nuggets and the Celtics last year. But I think that Nuggets team was also a team on a mission in that case as well. But I think they beat the Heat. Yes, I'll give them that, because at least you have a veteran coach, and rather than a first-year head coach and trying to get everybody settled down. But I still think maybe they're able to get a series out of the Nuggets. Maybe that series goes 6 or 7, but I still think the Nuggets probably win that.
A part of me is wondering, that's a great what if, right? And speaking of, Ime Udoka is probably surrounded by all kinds of women right now. I'd be like, see,
oh yes,
You know he is.
He's probably got a
Probably had
smoker jacket on.
Oh, probably so. Probably so. But like, I think to the question, I don't think they would have because I think there are problems with competitive maturity. We're still there last year. Hell, their problems with competitive maturity were honestly one of the biggest reasons they did win the title 2 years ago. Because I feel like in 6 of those games, Boston had the lead going into halftime like 4 or 5 times. Do I have that right?
Think so.
And it was like they came out of halftime and came apart. So they still had effectively the same problems just in terms of their maturity, and they still didn't have a point guard. I mean, they made the move to get Malcolm Brogdon last year, but it didn't work out. So they still kind of had Brown and Tatum and Marcus Smart handling a lot of the ball handling duties. So I think even if they had Ime there were still some structural problems to the on the court roster that probably would have prevented them from winning a title, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when questions like this come up, right? Like, would they have done it if this had not happened, right? Because I feel like that question comes up a lot of times with my Spurs in 2014, right? And people, there's just this assumption that if San Antonio won in 13, they would have came back and won in 14, right? And you just can't assume that, you know? I don't think just with Ime, I think given the problems that they had, I think the answer would have been no. And another question says, does Missoula give you more of a Mark Jackson vibe or a Mike Tirico vibe? He said he gives me a slight Dabo Olstein vibe as well. Oh man. Mike Tirico.
The Italian stallion.
Dog, every time I hear people like this Mike Tirico thing comes up, it is one of the funniest things in the world because, like, when you tell people that Mike Tirico says he ain't black, he Italian, and when there's people who are uninitiated and they don't know, it is so funny to tell them. So we were watching, I think it was Sunday Night Football. I told my lady, I said, hey,
Mm-hmm.
you see him right there? She's like, he's Italian. She was like, the tall white guy said, no. The other guy. And she fell out laughing for like 10 minutes straight. Like, it was hysterical. She was like, is he on drugs? But Mike Tirico, like Joe Mazzulla, he has a name where he looks like a Joe, but Mazzulla did not see coming at all. At all. And it's almost like one of them situations I had in graduate school, right? I don't even know if I ever told you this, Lamar. My first year grad school, right? They're bringing in a new set of recruits for the following year. And there's a guy by the name, his first name was Odell. Now, Lamar, when you hear the name Odell, you're from Louisiana, Lamar. What image comes to your head when you hear the name Odell?
Black guy with funny looking haircuts.
Man, look, it's so. I was telling my advisor, I said, man, there's a guy named Odell on this sheet. Man, he got to be black, right? My advisor looked at me. He was like, he is not. I said, wait a minute. You mean to tell me there's a white Odell out here in the streets? And he was like, yes, there is. Right. I just never thought Joe Mazzulla. I never thought that would be him. And every time I see him, I'm like, okay, that is Joe Mazzulla. Right. He looks like a Joe. But the Mazzulla thing, it's still taking me a while to get used to. So I looked it up and I found out his daddy is Sicilian.
Okay.
His mama is black. And a part of me just wants to know, where did they meet?
Well, that's a good question. What's his hometown?
See, that's a man. We about to do some research now. Where is his hometown?
Let's see.
Joe Mazzulla is from Johnston, Rhode Island. What?
Huh.
I didn't know black people
That's
lived in
just
Rhode Island.
that's
I'm
about
sure.
down the street from Boston.
I'm like, I'm sure he was one of the few. Hey, when he showed up for sleepovers at people's houses, they were like, "There's no way this child is Joe Mazzulla, Joseph Mazzulla." It's like, yes, right. But I'll say this: he doesn't give me a Mark Jackson or Mike Tirico vibe. I don't even really get Dabo Swinney vibes from him either, because he's not self-righteous like Dabo, and he's not.
Mhm.
I'll say this about Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson, by the end, I don't know if you read those stories on Substack about basically why Mark Jackson will never get another NBA job. He didn't come off like wildly ridiculous, right? And I don't get the feeling that he's, vibing with Mike Tirico. So I don't quite know where I kind of put Joe Mazzulla. I'm not quite sure. And part of the reason I said I don't know quite sure where I put him is because I ain't really never heard that man open his mouth before. He stands on the sideline just like you would think he's a mute, you know?
I'd probably just say the same thing about that. It's just you don't get a chance to hear him that much. I mean, he's just is what it is. I just think that he's kind of just one of those. Okay, look, I got a good team around him. Let them do the talking here. I'm only going to raise my voice if I need to, and that's about it. There. Um, I will say the same thing about Mike Tirico, though. I mean, at least between Mike Tirico and you remember the wrestling Taz, right?
Yes.
At least Taz kind of leans a little bit into he can be black, but he is more Italian. Because I mean, if you look at his son's now wrestling too. Hook,
Yes.
for AEW,
Wait,
and
that's Taz's son?
yeah, that's Taz's son. That is Taz's son. Yes.
Wow. I learned something new today. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. That is Taz's son exactly. And Hook don't exactly look like Taz when it comes down to it, especially not as dark as Taz and everything. But at the end of the day, at least you can kind of see that Taz. I mean, he doesn't lean the no, don't call me black, call me Italian. And if you kind of look at what Mike Tirico, he's offended if you call him black.
You know what you had me think about now, Lamar? Like some people who are definitely not black that I thought were black when I was a child. And I feel
Hmm.
like two of these are going to be humiliating, right?
Okay.
Okay. One, this first one, President Dwight Eisenhower.
Hmm.
And I feel like somebody in the comments is gonna light my ass up, but whatever. Right. And the second one was Kurt Angle.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. I thought maybe they can be black. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. Because you know why? They could be black if Babe Ruth was black. Oh, see, there's a
Hmm.
comment right there. Babe Ruth is black. There's a comment right there. Babe Ruth is black. Like, yo, I don't know. Lamar, I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of the former NAACP, one of the former leaders of the NAACP, Walter White. Have you ever seen him?
No, I haven't.
Go look up a picture, like Google right now, Walter White, NAACP.
Okay, because the only Walter White I know is obviously the one from that show, Breaking Bad. Let me
Yes.
see.
Like, look up Walter White, NAACP, and I promise you are going to be shocked what you see. You are going to be dead shocked.
Wow.
So, yeah, we're ready for it, were you?
Wow.
We're ready.
No, I was not. Not at all. No, I was not.
See, you was you like there's no way he can be black, right? And oh yeah, he was.
Mm-mm.
He was. So Google young Alex Trebek. Okay.
Okay, young Alex Trebek.
Hold on.
Oh man. Yeah.
Okay. See, once they put it in color, it's like nah, like nah, no way, right? But without color,
Yeah.
I can see how one could think.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how I can see how one could get there. I see another comment. Oh, I think Marcus, you must be talking about them folks when I said something about Joe Mazzulla being from Rhode Island. He said Rhode Island got Africans and Dominicans. Well, forgive me, I have never been to Rhode Island in my life, and I've because
Me
why?
neither.
Because
Me
I've
neither.
never had a like I have never had a reason to go to Rhode Island. Like this might be one of those things. It's like black people look black people from the South travel to the Northeast, to foregone states in the Northeast that have 2 electoral college votes. Like next thing you gonna tell me they got a couple of Dominicans and Africans in Vermont too.
I mean, look, Connecticut's a stretch. Connecticut, even Connecticut's a stretch. But you telling me to go to Maine, New Hampshire,
Yo, not a chance.
upper
They can't
part of
even.
New York that nobody really talks about? Like, no.
Like Boise, Idaho. That's another place where I'm
Yeah.
like the only African Americans you guys have are the ones who play football and basketball here. And I heard a story where some of the guys there, they start braiding and locking their hair, not because they are so in touch with, they want to get more in touch with their heritage, or they took a black studies course and now they want to lock their hair. No, ain't no barbers or ain't no barbers. That's how that works there.
Look,
Ain't nobody lining them up or gunning them up. So they up there braiding their own hair.
look, I know I might be talking a little out of turn when I say this here, but that's kind of what I also looked at when I was doing the journalism thing, as far as like trying to become a writer and everything else like that. And some of the things I always try to look at was, okay, demographics, like how many of us are going to be there, et cetera, and also trying to figure out, okay, if I go here, where am I going to get a haircut or my eating places and stuff like that? The questions that everybody needs to answer and everybody needs to know and everything else like that, because I'm just not going to just be like, okay, well, I'm here at a certain place and now next thing you know, I don't see any of me or any of us for another, I don't know, 15 miles.
Look, man, I wonder after you get like after New York, Pennsylvania, and okay, I might fail a geography test. Massachusetts is north of New York. Do I have that right?
Yes,
Okay. North of Massachusetts, where are the Negroes? Where are they? I
that's
know
a
these
good
states are
question.
very, very small. I know these states are very, very small, but still, I would be like, yeah, I can't live here. Not a chance. Because, like you said, where am I gonna get my haircut? Where am I gonna go to church? Then my two. If they ain't nobody can give me a lineup, like I'm not going to Sports Clips to get my haircut or Grade Clips or a place that calls themselves a salon. Hell no. Hell no. Oh, we got another question. Oh, buddy. Will Kyrie and Jalen Brown play for the Sovereign United Nations of Shablim this summer?
Oh, man. Oh, man, this takes me back to the point where Jalen saw the saw the
Hebrew
Nation of
Israelite.
Islam out there and thought it was the Qs.
Yeah. Yo, I didn't know Jalen Brown was locked in with the Shablim McNulty's of the world. I saw a couple brothers on the court with him after the game, and they showed it like they was locked in with all the Shablimery. Like I saw that head wrap. I saw that beard. I'm like, oh, buddy, look, they lucky he is not outside the building selling them self-published books because some of them brothers look locked in. Do you think, matter of fact, do you think Kyrie Irving was maybe the one who put Jaylen Brown onto the Shablim? Do
Probably
you think that's
so.
what
I
it
mean,
may have been?
they played for a couple of years together, right?
Yeah, they played for a couple years together, but I feel like your introduction into sublimery has to happen at a couple of different places, right? Oftentimes, this happens at a black university.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Nation of Islam, the Hebrew Israelites, they recruit at colleges and prisons, Jack. Why? People with a whole bunch of time and people who want information. So wait a second. Okay, so he said Jaylen Brown's a chess champion, super high IQ, and a shablim. Like, see, now I want to know more about Jaylen Brown, and a part of me is terrified to know more. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at both of those guys here, obviously with Kyrie and Jalen, I mean, they both played at smart schools when it comes down to it and everything. And by the way, smart schools that are going to be in the ACC, but that's a different story.
Oh, God.
Um, yeah, Cal's going to be in the ACC.
Oh God.
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, you already know the admissions of what happens with going to Cal, and of course with Duke. I mean, Duke ain't just letting anybody in either. So birds of a feather.
Maybe so. And a part of me is like, see, now we got the look. Now we're going to college football. Now I feel like since we here, since
Yeah,
we're here,
yeah,
guys, we might as well, right? The fact that the conferences are just going to be all messed up, right? We got Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC. SMU, hey, they're back in the big leagues. What's left of it? They're going to the
yeah.
ACC along with Cal and Stanford,
Yes, sir.
and the schools in the Pac-12 that people actually cared about that have big time name recognition in the sport, and at least in college football, they're going to the Big Ten. I think what this is really going to mess up, and I don't know how you feel about this, Lamar. Like this has kind of been messed up for years anyway. College football is best when it's really regional. Like it has a really regional feel to it. You know what I mean? Like the Big 12
Hmm.
was the Texas schools, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. You know, at its best, Iowa State was a doormat, and it was Colorado. You know, but it had an identity, right? Those natural in-state rivalries were there, right? We're getting Texas and Texas A&M back, right? But we're losing. I mean, let's be honest. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State is not a rivalry just because they play every year, right? I think in the history of that game, Oklahoma State has only won like 19 times, right?
Yes.
But still, that passion is what makes it great, you know. And now, you mean to tell me Big Ten games are going to start at 10 p.m. Pacific?
Hmm.
That's crazy, right? Because it felt like each conference had their own identity, and that identity was attached to the region. You know what I'm saying? The SEC still has a bunch of that because let's be honest, Texas fits regionally. Now that
Hmm.
A&M's there, Texas fits. Oklahoma fits well enough, right? It's not a big crazy jump. It's not Stanford joining the Atlantic Coast Conference. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's not that, and I think it's kind of the reason why everybody wants to get to 16 teams, and I want to see it fail mainly because I have a feeling this is going to fail because it did. That's was exactly what it did. We had it with another conference in the past where it didn't really work. Now, obviously, there's more money to go around, but you got to think that there's going to be some middle of the road team that just was like, man, I didn't sign up for this. Somebody like Ole Miss or Mississippi State that say didn't sign up for this. And I also think that some of these teams, obviously, that made the move. So let's say like a Nebraska making the move to the Big Ten. I wonder how many of those schools are having like buyer's remorse. Like Nebraska was a team, obviously in the Big 12, where you knew that they were going to be probably one of the top three teams in that conference. Them, Texas, Oklahoma, when it came to football. Now they're just another team in the Big 10. They're just another team in the Big 10. They're just like, and there's still that time where 9 wins don't do good enough for us, Bo Pelini. And then next thing you know, oh, you're doing well worse than 9 wins. You're basically struggling to get to six. But
Man, the reason, man, you got me thinking about Bo Pelini. Boy, they probably longing for the days of Bo Pelini. Because I tell you what, the reason Bo Pelini got fired, not because 9 wins wasn't good enough, because he's a flaming asshole. That's why that didn't work, right? And at a certain point,
yep.
you understand why you're like, we got to get rid of this dude because he's a flaming asshole, right? It is at a but so long you can really feel like dealing with that, right? And I think you're so right, because I think for a lot of places, a lot of schools, they have to ask themselves, what does success look like in this new college football ecosystem, right? Because the Big Two, the Big 12, the Big 12, the Big 10 and the SEC are now basically the AFC and the NFC. Everybody has to recalibrate their expectations. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's going to lose probably 2 games. Like,
Yep.
you just got to pencil that in, because like in the NFL, you're a number 1 seed and you probably have lost 3 or 4 games. You know what I'm saying? You're a playoff team and you lose 4 or 5 games. That's just what it is. Right? Like, it's not going to be a situation where a 2-loss season is we missed the playoff and everybody opts out of the ball game and we missed the conference title, so it's a lost season. It's not going to be that anymore because the competition is that stiff. But if you're a school like Ole Miss or Mississippi State, your expectations probably aren't going to change because you're Ole Miss and Mississippi State. I think Jeff Levy's incentive for winning the national championship is the exact same as it is for winning the Egg Bowl. They know they're not winning nobody's damn national title. Mississippi State knows this. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know who they are, what they are, right? But the question is, does everybody think now they have a shot? Because let's be frank, they don't. Because there's going to be 16 teams in the SEC now. How many of them legitimately have a shot to win an SEC championship year in, year out? Georgia, Alabama, LSU, if when they get themselves together.
Texas.
Sark got Texas together. And then
Florida,
you got
if they can ever get things going.
Oh man, dog, they have like the toughest schedule basically in the history of college football. They finished the season like 7 straight weeks playing ranked opponents.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's June. A lot can happen between then. But if they get to 6 games, it's a win this year. Do I think they will? Who knows? Does Billy Napier probably get fired with another 5-7? Probably so.
Probably
I think so. So we got another one. We still acting like Texas is a contender. I'm gonna put you like this. And Lamar, you can speak to this. You can speak to this as well. Starting the season, Texas might be the 4 best teams in the country. I'll tell you right now, just like with the guys they have coming back, the whole deal. Georgia, well, let's back up. Ohio State, I think, has Ohio State with the guys they got in the portal. They spend a whole lot of money to keep a whole lot of guys. Ohio State is championship or bust. Georgia, you can go Oregon, Texas, Michigan, Alabama. Texas is walking into the SEC as, at least right now, because we have no idea what Alabama's going to look like, second best team in the SEC. And that's not hyperbole. Like, Texas got dudes. Texas got dudes. Now, year in, year out, they got to do the job. I'm not a guy that's going to be like, Texas is back, because like I said before, you've heard me say this, Lamar. As a kid, I watched Texas win 10 games or more, 10 years in a row. That's the expectation. You got too many,
Mm-hmm.
like, it is too many players. There's too much talent. Y'all got too much money to not do the job. But this is the best. Like, I don't know how you feel about this, Lamar. You can speak to this. I think Texas is on the best trajectory they've been on since peak Mac in terms of recruiting, talent retention, development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so as well. Because I mean, getting to the year, well, getting to what they did last year, I think that was a little bit of a taste of it. Like you said, playing in the Sugar Bowl, giving Washington everything that they had in that one. I think that's kind of a taste, and you kind of retain some of that back. You also still have Quinn Ewers. You still have some of the pieces that they have there. I think that they can still make their way in, at least getting into the SEC. I mean, one of the things you don't have to worry about too much now is obviously Alabama. That's going to be interesting to see what happens now with Saban being gone and everything. Um, but can you still compete against Georgia? That's going to be the big thing there. And even if you still compete against Georgia, I think all you have to do really is just become the number 2 team in the conference, and you can still find your way in the 12 and into the CFP at this point. So um, that's going to be very interesting.
We got a couple more questions. Then we're going to wrap this thing up. Where does Trae Young need to go since he's most likely to get shipped off? Shoot, to San Antonio. Get rid of some of them dudes who refuse to pass Big Parlay the damn ball. Because some of these
Yeah.
dudes do not understand. Ain't nobody come here to see you, Keldon.
Yeah, I think San Antonio would be a good move for him. Like I said, Trey and Big Parlay, that would be box office. Shoot, even if you can probably get CP3 as a backup point guard. I mean, I think that would be very big box office. Like, man, Chris Paul with Wimby, man, if he probably feel like I could play another 5 more years at this point. If I had him, he'd probably be like, man, if I would have had him with the Lob City Clippers, man, can you imagine how many championships we would have won?
Dog, Chris Paul need to be an assistant coach. It's time for him to hang it up and hang the hairline up right along with it. It's a wrap, buddy. Like Chris Paul, like I'll be honest with you. After that Chris Paul's second and last year in Houston, I thought he was cooked. But
Mhm.
he's played 5 years longer than I thought he would. It's time to go home, dog. It's been 19
We're
years.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. We're about to get to 20 years if he plays this year, if he plays next year. 20 years. I started college when that guy got into the NBA.
Woo! Look, go home, raise your kids. Stop going to the barbershop. Cut it bald. And one
Don't get the
more
Doc
before we
Rivers.
go. Yeah, don't go get the. Do not go get the Doc Rivers. No, do the Derek White. Just embrace it. Don't try to erase it. Just go bald. Go bald. And the last one is Paul George for the Sixers a good idea? No. I mean, in the regular season, perhaps, because they've got Maxi. Well, let's back up. What do they have to give up to get him? What do they have to give up to get Paul George? That's the big thing, right? If it's a handful of first and, if those dudes are what, 7th and 8th graders right now, yeah, sure, right? But I personally think the whole process thing in Philadelphia has run its course, right? This thing is over. It's just a matter of when Joel Embiid is going to say when.
Mhm.
Because Jimmy Butler, I believe Tobias Harris is going to be up out of there. Ben Simmons, James Harden, Maxey, Embiid is the only constant at this point. And all they have to show for it is a bunch of second round exits. It don't like Paul George ain't gonna be the person to bring them over the top.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Paul George is a really talented player, has the ability to be the best player in a playoff series, but it's been what 2 presidential terms ago since he did that consistently with Indiana. If we keeping it funky,
Mm-hmm.
Paul George. Now, if we were talking Paul George going to Dallas, different deal. Oh, Lord have mercy. We trying to get off of here. You keep Marcus, you keep going. They said Paul George finna wake up tomorrow with a punch on. He's about to. Do you see this comment, Lamar? Do you see it?
Yeah, I do. I do see it. I do see it. Man, I wonder if Paul George, not Paul George. I wonder if
Oh,
Paul
Pierce.
Pierce was lost in the sauce like he was last year during that live stream with KG.
Dog, he was. I've never seen somebody go like constantly on a live stream and constantly on X, Y, and Z. Like he didn't lost his job behind this already, and
Like,
doesn't learn his lesson.
like,
That's the
like,
funny
like,
part.
like when KG has to be the same one and has to be the voice of reason, you are really wilding at that point.
He needed water badly. He needed water and something to eat because look, man, he showed up to that game the other night high as a Georgia pine. I'm like, dog, he lit up like a Christmas tree, ain't he? You know he is, man. But is Paul Pierce about to crash out? Absolutely. Absolutely. And let's just say this. We said it before. Them folks in Boston tonight, if you're black, stay indoors because they are going to act a fool. They're going to act worse than they did when they had to integrate the schools with forced busing in Boston. You already know it. You already know.
I'm gonna throw a brick
Oh
at
my
your car.
God. They look, they gonna say a whole lot worse than that. Look, that'll be the tame stuff. That'll be the tame stuff because one of the comments was like, "Yo, did you see the fight? White Boston fans was fighting during Game 4, and then the man getting beat up turned around and swung on only black men in the audience."
Oh,
See, they should have done. You got to mind the business that pays you. And I heard somebody say this. They were like, of all the fan bases that deserve to blow a 3-0 lead, it's Boston fans because they are just ridiculous.
were telling me the same thing, is especially when Kyrie was trying to save the ball and got into the ESPN crew and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And I think what Mike Bree was like, and some Boston Celtics fans were said something very inappropriate to him. I'm like, and a lot of people were just like saying, "Do you know who this is? Like, this is Boston." And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. This is the only fan base that probably gives Philadelphia fans, and that makes them blush.
Hey, dog, all the Northeasterners are rude. I'm just gonna keep it funky. You ask one of them what time it is, what time you think it is. You ain't got to watch,
And I mean,
and it's like you think I'll be
look,
yeah, and it's like you
right.
think I'll be dealing with your rude ass if I didn't have to.
Like I'll give Knicks fans this. They're passionate. And at least I'll give Philadelphia fans this. Anybody can get it.
Oh yeah,
Anybody. But Boston fans, whew, y'all almost up there with A&M fans.
I just need six. I got what 6.5, 7 more weeks before I got to think about those losers. You talk about a fan base who wants more credit for doing and achieving absolutely nothing. It's the fighting Texas Aggies. I should call them the fighting and losing Texas Aggies because that's really what they be out there doing. Oh man, oh man. And that is another episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Lamar Gafford, my boy. We appreciate you for hanging out with us during these NBA finals. It is you the homie. Year 3 has gotten better every year. We appreciate you, dog. Where can they find your work this upcoming year? Where can they find you, dog?
Appreciate Appreciate it, my man. You can find my work at sinlawpreps.com. Once again, that's sinlawpreps.com. I should have more time to now do these things now since we don't have that much stuff going on during the until the Olympics. What's going on? And then of course, you can also find my Twitter at Lamar Gafford, all in one word. Once again, that is at Lamar Gafford, all in one word.
All right, all right. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's T as in Tangeray, S as in Sangria, M as in Margaritas. Don't forget, follow the Game Plan Podcast on our official Instagram page at _ the Game Plan Podcast. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the official Game Plan Podcast YouTube channel where you are watching this here live stream. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, we appreciate you guys for listening. For Lamar Gafford, my name is Alex Goodwin. This has been the Game Plan Podcast. We will see you guys next time. Y'all take it light.